I had no idea what the potential was. I would always tell my wife, hey, this is blah, 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 and it's worth this. And she's like, it's not worth anything unless you sell it. Once I figured that out, the floodgates kind of opened at that point. And I'm like, Ryan, I got no more money. I can't keep going.
A year ago, Frank knew almost nothing about the sports card market. He had an old collection he wanted to sell, but when he started looking into the market, he realized there might be a much bigger opportunity here. Now, Frank has a full-time job and a family, so whatever he was going to build had to happen completely on the side. Fast forward 1 year, and he's made over $12,000 of profit from cards, completely part-time, and he's loving every minute of it. So I recently asked Frank to walk us through how he went from knowing almost nothing about this market to actually making money consistently and what it took to actually get there. So Frank, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Can you start by just giving us a little bit of a lay of the land? Just who are you?
Sure. And I'm gonna use a saying that I've heard from you. I am just a guy. I am just a regular guy. I'm married. I've been married 21 years. I have 3 kids. My day job, I'm a technology professional. There was 2 kind of personal goals that I had for my life. I wanted to make a better version of myself. And then the second part, I just wanted to kind of clear things out and try to make some money from cards I had, magic cards, sports cards, whatever cards I had. So those were the 2 goals that I had kind of, going into this. I think it started with my wife just saying, you have a bunch of cards downstairs, sell the cards. I didn't know anything about the process or anything like that. I think I saw one of your videos on YouTube. Your book, I think I read in about a week and a half, and a lot of it made sense. So yeah, I mean, that's how I got started. I just wanted to sell what I had, and I wanted to know the best process to do that. And what I found was just so much more.
I think a lot of people have that similar type of starting point where it's like, man, I collected back in the day, or I did this as a kid, and let me pull out my old stuff. Or no, I've got a kid now, and I want my kids getting into it, so I'm getting dragged back into it. And for a lot of people, it starts with that same kind of, I've got this box of stuff. What do I do with it? The more you go down the rabbit hole, I think a lot of people, their eyes are open to how many things have changed and how different things are and how much money is in this space and opportunity. Yeah. But was there a moment where things started to look like, wait a second, there might be more opportunity here beyond just selling my stuff? What was that for you?
Yeah, so that moment was definitely as I was going through the book, as I was going through the coursework, and things started like clicking in my head. And I'm like, oh, I could grade. I graded cards way back when BGS was a thing. I mean, I'm talking 20 years ago, and I probably graded like 3 or 4 cards. I had a bunch of sports cards, but in my head, sports cards meant very little to me. I really had no attachment to them. I just wanted to sell them, and I had no idea like the sports card market and how they sell and the prices. It was crazy.
Did you have a desire from the get-go to try to make some money with it? Yeah. Or was it more just, let's get this junk out of here and clear out?
The funny thing is I didn't know what I was doing. I was selling what I knew, but I knew I could unlock way more. I knew that there was a better way to do it. And that's kind of what I was looking for. I was always a collector. I mean, my father got me into it years ago. He came home one time with a pack of baseball cards. After he, filled up his truck and got gas, he went in to pay, and he bought a pack of cards and brought it home. And I think I was probably like 6 years old. And, so every time my father would get gas, I was always kind of, eager and happy to see him come home because I knew he would have a pack of cards for me. And that's kind of, how I got started, doing sports cards and stuff like that. I had no idea what the potential was. I did want to make money with cards. I knew I could before, but I wanted to know how to do it the right way.
What did the results look like in your first year?
First year, profit-wise, I'm a little over 12,000 in profit. I'm about 12,400 in profit. And that's, I measure that from 9 months of grading. I've been in the group for 12, but obviously you got that 3-month wait time where things are, you're waiting for stuff to come back. So in the 9 months, what I've gotten back so far, I've made a little over 12,000. I'm averaging, about 1,300 a month profit. And I also measure my gem rate too, because I think that's important. And I'm gem rate all time right now is about 75%.
It's outstanding. All right, Frank, $12,400 of profit for the year, and you're saying you're averaging about $1,300 per month right now. That's
Correct.
where you are now. What about when you first got into this, and take us through those early days? Because I think for a lot of people, there's some uncertainty, there's some
Oh
fear,
yeah.
there's, PSA is scary. We don't know, especially, bigger grading fees that you got to deal with. And what about if I've never graded a card and I don't know what to look for? What were those early days like for you, and how did you overcome that?
Early days for me, I would say if I could sum it up quickly, it was lack of patience and lack of confidence, probably, right? So I was definitely every day refreshing, the website to see if there was movement. If I could talk to myself when I first started, I would just say, just have patience. Just keep along the process. Just keep on keeping going. But my first couple, yeah, just I was definitely impatient. I was anxious. I'm like, what's going on? I remember reaching out to you. Probably it was closer to like 3.5 month mark. I hadn't got my grades back, and I'm like, Ryan, I got no more money. I can't keep going because I need my grades back. And what a breath of fresh air just to get my initial grades back. And I think when I first started, what I didn't realize was that when you make profit, and I made $144 profit on my first submission, which I'm sure there's lots of people that will be like, well, that's not a lot, Frank. But I think the point is profit is awesome. I made money. So I don't, I'm not unhappy. If it was 500, awesome. But if it was $10, awesome. It was a proof of concept for me to keep going. I mean, here I am, I'm in like month 3.5, 4, and I get these and I'm like, wow, I made profit. That's what this whole thing's about. And I just want to keep going at this point. But another thing that hit me that I didn't realize, because I mean, I'm not a finance guy or anything, but having $144 profit on that submission, that was my profit. I was also getting back what I paid for the cards raw, right? So like when that money hit my account after everything was sold, it was like I had about $350 roundabout. And I was like, whoa, I got $350 now to spend. And funny enough, I took that 350 and I invested in one card. And I don't know why I made the jump so soon, but it was a confidence level, and I had already been kind of looking at a bunch of cards. At that point, I probably looked at a good 50 cards, and I had a good idea of what it took, and my eye and stuff like that. And I ended up I bought this card raw, this Roman Anthony gold on card auto out of 50, and I paid about 340 for it. I haven't sold it, Ryan, because it's kind of my first huge card. I'm probably going to sell it at some point. It has like a sentimental value to me, but and obviously I gem that card as well. But to me, this proved the process, because the process is kind of a snowball, right? You take your money, take your profit, buy more cards. And the goal is to keep ramping up, and that's exactly what this proved, before Anthony got hurt, I mean, the card was worth about $1,100. So, and I'm sure it'll still be there, when he comes back. So, yeah, I mean, that was my first submission, about 144. My second submission that came back shortly after that, maybe 3 weeks after that, I made about $560 profit on there. Got back about $1,000 total, and Ryan, it was game on from there. I mean, yeah, I quickly, like the nerves, the anxiousness, I quickly just shed all that, and it was just kind of like game on. Let's find some clean cards and let's just keep this going, And what was important for me was just continuing to wrap that money into the process, And we've talked about this, how like the process is not. It's not glamorous. It's kind of boring. It's just you just need to do the process. It sounds so simple, but it's also difficult at the same time. And it is a lot of work. But
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And man, sometimes it's just doing the boring work, but doing the things that are paying you. Yeah, it's
yes,
going to get boring over time. But like as human beings, we're emotional creatures, and we always want to like search for novelty. Man, you just like do it to your own detriment. When you find something that works, do that until it doesn't work anymore, right? Like there's no need to go and reinvent the wheel. And that's where, finding people that have come before you to just latch onto like, what are these people doing? What do they know that I don't? That maybe if I could just like pick up some of the knowledge and pick up some of the tips and the skills that these people have clearly proven work, just do that instead of trying to go and create some brand new strategy. Like just do what's already proven. Like great cards, it works. Like,
Yes.
play the seasonal timing games, it works. Go find value buys that you can buy under market and flip for a quick profit. It works.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because, like I said, when I first joined, my goal was just to sell what I had. I wasn't even thinking about grading because that's not how I didn't know about grading until I read your book and, and started getting into the coursework. And that's when things really started to click. And even in my first submission, and this is really important, and you mentioned this, like not all cards deserve to get graded. And even on my first submission, I learned a really important lesson with that. I said I'm a Celtics fan, so I had an Hugo Gonzalez card that was serial numbered. I forget what the serial number was. It was a purple laser, and I thought it looked really good, and it gemmed, and it was actually a pop one, which you would think that's awesome, but it was a pop one because I had no business grading that, and neither should anyone else. But I ended up selling that card for like a loss of like $1.50. But the important thing is that I learned, and it was in the coursework, that not all cards deserve to be graded. It needs to be a desirable card that people want to buy. So
Yeah. When there's so many of those little things that you just pick up along the way, and sometimes just like through the journey, you'll see it play out and it's like, oh, that's what that person was talking about when they were warning me about this thing. But man, I want to go back to the first order, especially because talking about $144 of profit.
Correct.
Not a bad day, right? Like, there's a lot of people in this market that are losing money. So, to be winning is great. And I think of it the exact same way that you described. Like going back to my earliest win, it was $8.91 of profit. And even then, as a broke college kid, did not matter to me. That was like, that money was trivial. Like it was, a nice order of Taco Bell back in the day, right? But what it meant to me though was absolutely everything. Because I knew that if I could make $9 once, I could just do more of that and do it again. And then why not make 90? And why not keep going and make 900 or 9,000 or 90,000 and beyond? It's just like, you can just see it once you actually prove that this works to yourself. Right. Maybe you believe it. Maybe you see other people do it. It's just like, for whatever reason, no, I got to see the money hit my account. But then once it does, to your point, man, it's game on because you've proven it. You know how to do it now. You know what the process is, and you get to take that with you for the rest of your life once you've learned that skill, and you continue to sharpen it, of course. But man, that skill is so valuable because guess what? With grading, like you can go and submit cards for grading anytime. You just go find the cards to get graded and make sure they're clean enough, have upside, like send them off. You can do that as many times as you want to. There's no rules in this market. And that's what always appealed to me is being stuck in a day job and always feeling like, man, I want to create something that belongs to me where I could go faster than just the day job trajectory.
Yeah. And what you said is very important. I still feel to this day that the most important thing I've gotten through your coursework, through being a member of Ignite, through your book, is the ability to find a clean card to grade. It's a skill that nobody can take away from you. And I just feel like if you're starting out, if you're new in this space, do the reps yourself, but don't do it alone. Get other people's help, because I did. I mean, when I first started, I definitely, there were many times where I said to myself, man, am I bugging Ryan too much? Am I bugging Gabe too much? Am I bugging Josh too much? But I was second guessing myself because I didn't have that skill yet. I wanted to make sure that the cards that I was buying was on the right path. I was thinking the right way. I wanted to make sure that everything I looked at matched up, the condition of the card and whatnot. And, once I figured that out, the floodgates kind of opened at that point.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. It's such a valuable skill. And the other thing there that I think is so critical, like obviously I think we have a really great thing going in the Ignite group, but even if that's not for you, the viewer, like it's okay. Just find someone that can help you. Find a support system in this space. It's lonely trying to figure this out on your own. And you get into this echo chamber, your own brain, and just like sometimes you need an outside perspective to just even I need it sometimes. Just knock some sense into you about like, what are you doing holding on to that guy? He sucks. Like, get rid of that. Get on to the next card, right? And it is just so valuable when you have people that actually care to help you and will take the time to give you a second opinion. The other thing that I wanted to dig into a little bit more, because I think it's really relevant in the current grading environment where PSA, as of the time of this recording, at least has the 4 cheapest turnaround times paused. And so $80 per card is the cheapest available option, at least for now. With that comes definitely a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt from people, especially that haven't already like developed that skill of learning how to grade. You jumped straight into it pretty quickly. After that first sub, you got that money back, and it sounds like you went straight for a bigger card.
Yeah.
But the thing that I want to not overlook there is you had already made 2-3 different submissions by that period of time. So you had already looked at probably a couple hundred cards, even if you hadn't got the grades back. That is so valuable. And I just want to pause on that for a second, because like, even if you haven't heard from PSA, you haven't seen the actual end result. I promise you, if you look at one card, you're not going to be as good as at evaluating condition as if you look at 10 or 100 or certainly 1,000 cards. You're just going to start to know what a clean card actually looks like by way of comparison. So I think that that's where, even before we get the actual results that matter, you still can build that skill set up. And it is a little bit of a sprint. Like, there is that difficult first few months where you've got to get this off the ground. You've got to make a few submissions before you get that first submission back. And that's when the money starts to flow a little bit if you're doing the right things. But can you talk to us a little bit more about that jump? Because I think that's the type of thing that right now a lot of people could use maybe some words of wisdom, or at least what your experience was like.
Yeah, I'm going to use a quote that a software developer told me that I worked with. Remember, he told me, Frank, it's impossible to lie to yourself. And at the time, I really didn't know what he meant. But he said, you can't lie to yourself because you know the truth. And I use that same phrase when I'm looking at cards. So I'm looking at a card and I say to myself, oh, there's a little scratch. Now, I can't lie to myself. I see the scratch. I know the truth. So if I see the scratch, then that means someone else is going to see the scratch. So I think it's important to be truthful and honest with yourself. If you see an imperfection, don't expect it, to gem, So I'll say that. The other thing too that I've done since the start, or maybe since the third, fourth submission, is keep notes. Every time I look at a card, I take detailed notes of that card. I don't want to be surprised at all in 3 to 4 months. If I'm going to be surprised, I want to be surprised in a good way. I want to say to myself, okay, well, I thought it was a 9, but it got a 10. That's the surprise I want. I mean, there are times when I say to myself, this might be an 8, and then it comes back a 9. And I'm okay with that because, I had built that into it where I might make enough money to buy myself coffee or break even at a 9, but the upside was so huge that if it did, then I was fine.
Yeah. And I think what you hit on is really important too, with like going after cards that have high upside so that you can afford to take a little bit of a risk, because it's okay if you get a 9 on certain things, as long as the way that you put your orders together, you're giving yourself enough upside. Those ones that hit 10s will make up for the 9s and then some, and still leave you with some money to put in your pocket at the end of the sub, even if you don't get as high of a gem rate as you'd like to see.
Yeah, and you've always said that you win with the submission as a whole. You don't win card by card. That's really important. And if you can lock onto that and accept that, you'll be fine. There have been orders where the only 10 maybe I submitted 5 cards and I got a 10 on one card, but it was the biggest card. So I still made a killing, right?
Yeah, when I just think like putting together an order as a play is how I think of it. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's making sure that you can separate yourself from the outcome of each individual card too, because I think it's so easy to just get dragged down emotionally by like, I don't want to lose money on this card and this card and this card. I'll guess what though, if you go, those 3 cards and you lose money on those, but you're making money on the other 7 cards in the order, I promise you're going to be happy overall if you're sending the right kinds of cards that have good upside and you're making good money on those. It's going to more than make up for it. But when we get attached to the outcome of every single card, I don't want to lose. Like, no one wants to. But when you look at it as a play, like that's where the profit shines through overall. And over a long enough time period, like if you keep going, that's how I always look at it, is like from one order to the next, you might get different graders. There's human beings grading the cards. There's going to be some variance in the way that your cards are graded from one order to the next. They get it right far more often than they get it wrong. but
They
there
do.
is going to be variance. And that's the reason why we have to swing the bat enough times, right? Like we got to get enough cards out there so that we can actually see how we're doing. I don't know. I can't tell you the number of times where people tell me like, oh, I sent a grading order and it didn't go well. So grading doesn't work. Like, okay, you sent 5
Yeah.
cards. Like, when are we going to get an actual
Yeah.
sample size here that we can work off of? So we got to like keep putting out the cards, keep taking swings, because over time your skill will shine through and it'll overcome any kind of variance between the graders. If you send enough orders, you're going to get some positive regression there. You're going to get the good grader just as you're going to get the tougher grader sometimes. Like it's going to go both ways, but overall you're going to be right down the middle over a long enough time period.
Yeah. I'm gonna say the quote that sums up exactly what you just said, and you did the quote. The quote is, volume negates luck. And
For sure.
I think of that all the time, and so I want to make it clear to the people that are watching this. When we say volume, we're not really meaning 50 cards, 100 cards. It's just what we're really meaning is just keep going with this, right? So keep submitting every month, right? If you keep doing that and you get better, your eye gets better, and you're submitting clean cards, it gets to a point where it's not luck anymore. It's skill, right? That's what it is, right? So you just keep submitting, using your skill and your ability, and good things happen. Sounds so simple, but it's actually pretty complicated.
The way that I've heard that put that I really like too is like you increase the surface area onto which luck can land. And it's like,
Correct.
that's what you're doing by increasing your skill set and by continuing to swing the bat. Because if you stop swinging, it doesn't matter how good at it you are, you're never going to win. But that's when you start to get things that go your way. And that's just what's going to happen when you stay in the game. So,
Yeah.
man, I want to go through just a couple other quick questions for you here.
Sure.
But was there anything that you believed when you first joined the group, or even before joining the group, when you just stepped back into the card market, that now you look back and almost laugh at, like, you don't need to have 80 hours a week to do this. You don't need to know everything just to get started. Was there anything like that for you that you now look back on and, man, belief broken? What was that thing?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really thought, I thought to myself, I needed an eBay store and I need to kind of learn that. I thought to myself, I needed a card scanner and I needed a microscope and a jeweler's loupe, and I needed all this equipment to set myself up to achieve. I didn't want to fail, so I just I said to myself, oh, I'm gonna put the money in and I'm gonna get everything I need to be able to do this. And it wasn't that complicated. I'm sure a lot of those things help. But looking back, I mean, I'm glad I set myself up for success, but there were just some things that, I didn't need as part of my process.
Yeah, and I don't want to go down the legal route here, but like a lot of people are like, well, do I need to go and set up my LLC or my business entity and get my business bank account and do all this setup, get an eBay store, buy all the equipment, buy an expensive scanner? It's like, why don't you just buy a couple cards first and like get them out the door for grading and see if you can actually make a little bit of money at this, and then you can formalize all that stuff later. I mean, I would separate, get it, even if it's just a personal bank account, just so you can keep your finances straight. But like outside of that, there's things that just create revenue. And then there's things that just take a lot of your time and mental energy for no real reason. And I think a lot of times people get bogged down by that, especially in the beginning when you just don't know what you don't know. But I would just say, just start, right? Like I don't know what more you can do, right?
You just have to start.
So we talked a ton about grading, right? And I think that there are quite a few different strategies you could try to roll out in this space. Why do you gravitate toward grading specifically?
I'm just going to throw it out there. That's the way to make the most money for me in my process. I've also bought graded cards already and then used them as kind of seasonal flips and resold them. You can certainly do that. I've even heard of people just buying raw and never grading and then selling raw at a later time to make more money. You can certainly do that. I think it's definitely important too that when you're doing any of this, you need to be happy with it, right? So if you're not happy and you're not enjoying it, then look for something different. But if you're happy doing it, you're having fun, you're making money, why change? Just continue on that path, right? So that's how I see it.
Yeah. I will say, I'll give you some props here because you're one of the people that I've watched firsthand take action consistently without trying to get cute or change things. You've just looked at the course, you've looked at the plan that's laid out. That I mean, guys, I don't know everything, but like I've seen a lot in this space. I know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And you've just like committed to that process and have just rolled it out and just stuck with it. And look where you are right now. And this is just, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is just the beginning with the skills that you now have and the direction you're now going.
Yeah.
I'm curious, where do you think you're going? What do you feel like the next year, maybe 2, 3, 5 years even look like for you in this space?
Such a deep question, Ryan. I definitely look at it in phases. So at first it was just, can I make profit, right? I mean, the bar was low. So it was, can I make profit? So then my mindset was, okay, well, everybody is talking about 500 a month. That was kind of the buzzword, 500 a month. So that was my goal. Can I make 500 a month? And geez, on my second submission, I hit 500 a month. So, and then what it was, I was talking to people. There were cards out there that specifically, like, Bowman Chrome First Autos, they were just so expensive. I mean, no matter the play, these cards were like 1,000, 1,500 raw. And it was kind of a personal goal. I really wanted to be able to buy one of those and grade it and profit. That was a goal of mine. So, I think looking forward, I certainly want to still achieve the 500, but I really want to hit 1,000 every month. That's where I'm at right now. I haven't really thought much past that. I mean, I would love 5,000. I would love 10,000. The ultimate goal, man, I would love to do this full time. I think it's possible. I really do. But it's things just need to ramp up. I mean, I've only been doing it for a year. I see where I am now. It's great. I mean, there are other people in the group that have far surpassed me and things like that, profit wise and things. But I definitely, I feel like the sky's the limit. I just have to keep going. Before the pause, I was getting 3 submissions out a month, and wasn't even sweating it. So, one of the things I will mention, I don't think I touched on this, is, when I got started, obviously you need money to make money. Okay. And, it's, everyone's got a different kind of budget, but I created my budget from selling cards I already had. And then that's what I use. So I think that's important to kind of keep that separate. If I didn't, I'd probably be divorced by now. My wife would probably, there's no way I could use my family's finances. So I've funded this entire journey from cards. That's it. And, I don't foresee myself ever tapping into our family's money, and it's been working out great.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great way to start too. If you have something that you can just move out of and
It
create
doesn't it
some,
doesn't need to be cards either, right, Ryan? It could be
right?
you got clothes. I don't know, just you need something. You need a budget first to start.
Right. Yeah, that seed money matters. And I'm someone who started with very little. I only had a few $100s in this space and had to like kind of grind my way up. And the trajectory is slow if you don't
Yeah,
have any money to work with.
correct.
So they're got to just be realistic about it, right? Because if you're tying up money grading, it's sitting there at PSA for 2, 3, 4 months, depending on the turnaround. When the cheaper turnarounds come back, 8 months at certain levels. Like
Yeah,
that's a long time to tie up your money. And so
yeah,
there are some considerations there about, okay, how much do we actually need to get this off the ground? And that's where that, going back to what you talked about with that sprint, that upfront like 2, 3 month sprint before you see that 4th month roll around and finally your submission comes back. And then you start to get to
correct.
recycle those dollars. And that's where the business begins to fund itself. And that's when it starts to get to be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I got to ask about your wife too, or just family in general. Like, how does she think about this? I think there's a lot of skepticism out there from spouses and, oh, those stupid card stuff. That's a waste of time. How does your wife feel about this?
Well, way different now since, from when I first started. I mean, when I first started, it was like, just get these things out of here. I mean, I would always tell my wife, hey, this is blah, 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 and it's worth this. And she's like, it's not worth anything unless you sell it. I can picture my wife. That was what she would say all the time. It's not worth anything unless you sell it. And she's right, but, now it's neat. I mean, my wife uses an app on her phone called Fetch, and Fetch is actually attached to my email, and in my emails all my PayPal receipts from buying cards. So she loves it because she's getting credit on the Fetch app from all these receipts and cards. And every now and again she'll be like, "You spent $1,000 on a card?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah," So, but now, it's a way of life now. She will ask me sometimes, "Hey, it's Tuesday. Don't you have your call tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Tuesday." Um, I can talk to her a little bit about cards now. I'll mention like, hey, I did this and I did this, and she'll kind of smirk or whatever. I mean, she's not into it, but she accepts it a lot more now that it's making money. And definitely I've taken all my profits and just bought more cards. But obviously at some point I do want to take some of the money out, and I'd like to fund a vacation. My wife's always wanted to go to Alaska. I think it would be wonderful if I could surprise her and say, hey, I booked the trip. It's already paid for. I used card money. And I really think at that point will be the kind of the turning point for her, where she'll probably be like, cards are awesome. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that that's what it is life hack. Just go and like make sure that you take card money and spend it on something that benefits your significant other and let them know where the money came from. It's like awfully powerful way to get a little bit extra buy-in there. So
even my kids, sometimes like when my oldest daughter will call, she'll say, "Hey, Dad, you get any grades back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And she'll be like, "How'd you do?" And I'll tell her, and she's mildly interested, and I'm fine with that. That's wonderful.
Last question for you, man, and then we'll wrap this thing up. But for someone that's considering joining the group, or that's just getting started, or that maybe they took a free trial of it and they're just, I don't know if this is for me or not. What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say if you're skeptical, so was I, right? I think that's human nature. So if you're sitting there saying to yourself, does this work? Can I make money? It did for me, and it has for other members. I think what's important is action, right? So set yourself a budget, set yourself some real expectations, work on your eye. Most important thing, so get the reps in, ask other members' opinions. Like, there's so many guys that have gone through the trenches. This is not a get rich quick scheme at all. Like, it just isn't, it's work. It's fun work. I enjoy it. It's cool, but yeah, just take action.
Yeah, I think if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to just like commit to something and just take consistent action and be willing to learn along the way, it becomes almost unlikely that you don't at least take a big step towards your goals if you give this a long enough time to actually let it work. So I couldn't agree more with you on that one, man. But
you have to trust the process, and you also have to don't go it alone. That's so important. Get other people's insight. You're not bothering them. Trust me, you're not. It's everyone that's doing this and succeeding, they love what they're doing, right? So I love answering. I get private questions all the time. I love helping. I really do. It's not a bother at all to me. It literally takes me seconds to kind of give you a little bit of insight. And if it's going to help you, awesome. Because I like doing it because people did it for me when I started. And people are still doing it for me now too. So
Frank, it's been fun, man. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I would say just start. Just start. That's it.
Just start. Great words of wisdom, my friend. Thanks for sharing your story with us, and looking forward to seeing what you do in the years to come.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. This was great.